And so today I want to be focusing on the idea of living from our inner strength, of reclaiming our power. It's easy sometimes to feel discouraged. It's easy sometimes to feel hopeless or powerless, but that's not the truth of who and what we are. We are made in the image and after the likeness of God, the divine spirit, whatever name we want to put to that. We are made in that image and that likeness. And within that is tremendous power that each and every one of us has. Inherent power to overcome the difficulties that we face individually and collectively. Inherent power to create more of the life that we want for ourselves, for our families, and for our communities. And so how do we go about cultivating more of that inner resilience, more of that inner strength, so that when we look at the things that are up in the world, if we look at what's going on politically or economically or globally or around issues and around rights, how do we stand firm? How do we call upon that inner strength and cultivate that so that we can rise to meet whatever it is that is up for us? If ever we needed to be anchored in truth, I think now is the time. If ever we needed to be anchored in principle, now is the time. Now is the time to dig deep into the teachings that you know and to rely upon them as you meet whatever issues you are facing in your own life. I've had several people reach out to me just in the last couple of weeks, younger people really dealing with challenges around employment and dealing with challenges around their relationships. And, I ask basic questions like, how's your meditation practice? How's your journaling? What is it that you're leaning into? What is it that you're continuing to practice? Are you getting up off your affirmations and taking the steps that Spirit is revealing to you, knowing that we don't usually get the whole shebang. We get a little bit of what is ours to do next, a little bit of what is ours to either take hold of or to release. So if ever there was a time to be anchored in truth, I think now is the time. There's a verse that we use quite a bit in Unity, and it always requires a little bit of explanation and context, I think. It is from Philippians, I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. That sounds super religious, doesn't it? Very, very religious. And it sounds very Christian, doesn't it? Yes, but that's not the way that we look at it in Unity, because we recognize that Christ is a title, and it's a title that comes from the Greek word, Christos, and referred to anointed one. And so when we look at a verse such as this, I can do all things. Don't you want to be able to do all things? I do. I want to be able to manage my life as best I can. I want to be able to accomplish important things. I want to live a life that matters. I want to make a difference in my family, in my community, in my world. So I want to know what it means I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. What we look at that meaning in metaphysics and Unity is the Christ presence, the presence of the power of God within each of us, whether we acknowledge it or recognize it or not. It's within every one of us, whether we call ourselves Christian, Jew, Buddhist, Muslim, atheist, agnostic, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. The presence, the power is still there. It's what you are. It's what I am. But we allow so much of life and so much of outside messaging to dim that, to cover that over. And a lot of our spiritual journey is about reclaiming the truth of who and what we really are. I forget who said it. Yeah, I do forget whether it was Alan Watson who said it, but the idea that so much of what we need to do is unlearning. is unlearning. Unlearning the myths and the lies that we have been told about us or told about what it is to be human. We are divine first and foremost. We are made in that presence and that power and that image first and foremost. And to reclaim that for ourselves is the seat and the impetus for true power. Power through, not power over someone else, but power through the difficulties that we might be experiencing. There are a few ideas that I want to share with you that I think bear remembering together, and that in the remembrance of these ideas, we can become more resilient, become stronger. One of the things that I have come to appreciate more as I go through life, as I have more candles on my birthday cake as the years go by, is the value of a couple of basic practices and qualities. The value of resilience and the value of perspective. Resilience, the ability to get back up again. Perspective, the ability to look differently at what's going on in me and around me. I don't know that these are called spiritual practices, but I think they ought to be. The practice of resilience, the practice of perspective. So here's the first idea. Remember that you are not a victim of your circumstances. You're not a victim of circumstance. You're a creator of your individual life experience. One of the biggest leaps of growth we make on our spiritual journey is when we move from what is called in the 4 phases of consciousness, when we move from the phase of consciousness that's sometimes labeled as the victim consciousness, the consciousness or the state of being where we think that life is happening to us. And it's either happening to us and it's a good thing and we like what's going on, we like the circumstances, or it's happening to us and we don't like the circumstances and we're looking for somebody to blame. But life is happening to us. We are just the recipient of whatever it is that's going on. You may remember or be able to call back to mind when maybe you felt that way. But if you've been in unity or science of mind or new thought for any length of time, you know that that's the entry level, if you will, that the biggest change that we make in consciousness is the leap from what's called victim consciousness, where life is simply happening to us and we can't figure out why, to the by me state of consciousness, where life is happening by me. This is where we step into a true sense of our own authentic power, that we are co-creators. We don't create everything, but we certainly create an awful lot of what is present and remains present in our life experience. We call it the manifesting state of consciousness. And the other two, and I'll just touch upon them quickly, are the through me state of consciousness, where we now realize we don't have to go it alone, that there is a power and a presence that we can lean into and rely on and be a vehicle for. And that is when life really, I think, starts taking off, where we're not just relying on our own good thinking and our own abilities, but we open up. We still that mind, as we were doing in meditation. We open the heart wide to the movement of that energy of spirit, that energy of power. And then the as me state of consciousness is a completely unitive state. But the biggest leap is moving out of thinking that we're just subjected to our circumstances. Excuse me, and they just they just happen to us. The big leap is when we realize, no, there's so much I can do and need to do to change the circumstances that I'm in if I don't like the circumstances I'm in. It gives us resilience. It gives us an opportunity to create what it is we do want to see. A second important piece is remembering that we have untapped inner reservoirs, untapped inner resources within us that we are not using. Let me ask you a question, and I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand. It's a personal question. Do you believe that you are using all of your power and potential in your life right now? Oh, wow, you were very immediate in your response. Excuse me, I don't know why I've got this frog in my throat. I know that I'm not either. So what is it that causes us to use more of the power and potential? When the circumstances in our life are requiring that we get up and we do something different, right? The very things that we might push against and argue and resist are the very things that help us to use more of the innate resources and capacities and talents and power that we have. It's so easy to think that this applies to other people, that other people have the power, other people are stronger, other people are more talented, other people are more capable. This is where I want to say, who the heck cares? I mean, it's great in a way that other people are more powerful, more talented, more using their energy and creativity, because it's an inspiration to me that I can do the same. The same. You have untapped resources, courage, resilience, wisdom. Now is the time to tap into them. Do you remember ever learning about or reading stories of people performing seemingly impossible feats of physical strength, like tiny women lifting the end of a car off of a child in an accident? There's a name for that. Do you know what it's called? It's called hysterical strength. And not hysterical as in like laugh aloud strength, but it's called or referred to as hysterical strength. And it has to do with what happens in extreme or what can happen in extreme or life-threatening situations. There is and can be such an adrenaline rush and such a brain override. See, our brain wants to keep us. There's an inhibitory system in the brain and the nervous system that wants to keep us in certain check and in certain balance so we don't kind of like use up all of our energy all of the time. But in extreme circumstances, in life-threatening situations, that sometimes that is the brain's mechanism to inhibit that force of energy and strength is quieted down. And there's this adrenaline rush and this ability to do so much more. Why? Why? Because the circumstance is demanding it of us. The circumstances you and I find ourselves in that are difficult, while I don't ever wish them on myself or anybody I care about or anybody really, what I do know is that those circumstances that are difficult are the very, to use words my dear late friend used to always say, Barbara Marx Hubbard, evolutionary drivers. Evolutionary drivers, inviting us, sometimes forcing us, into a whole other level and way of being. We're living in times that I think we need to exercise more of that we need to rise to the occasion, that we need to remind ourselves and each other, we're better than this. We have more power, we have more talent, we have more creativity, we have more resolve. Let's use it to bring forth a better world for ourselves and for each other. To be anchored in truth. If ever there's a time for us to remember these things, now is the time, individually and collectively. Third idea, to release the need to control external events. Any of you still working on that one? Am I the only one that's still on? Okay, JC, you and I are still working on this one together. Release the need to control external events. There's a lot we can control. I do not agree that with people who say you can't control anything. I don't agree with that. I think that's simplistic black and white thinking that we sometimes fall prey to in metaphysics. But I know that there's an awful lot that we can't control. We can control, and this is where the real power is, and I know you know this, we can control how we look at what happens to us, what we do in response to what happens to us. But release the need to control external events. Focus instead on controlling your inner response. Focus instead on controlling your inner response. It reminds me of a teaching in a book that was really formative in my life and still is formative. The book, Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And if you've read that book, then you probably remember him writing about 2 circles, circle of concern and circle of influence, and how important it is to understand what lives in each of these different circles and why it matters to understand what lives in each of these circles. That our circle of concern encompasses everything that we worry about or concerns us, the kinds of things we care about, but over which we have little or no direct control. Circle of concern, things we care about. Do you care about the environment? Do you care about global issues? Do you care about the fact that we're a planet people at war with each other? Do you care about economic difficulty? We probably, if we were to make a list of the things that we care about, all of us in this room, I bet you we'd find a tremendous amount of agreement, regardless of where we stand politically. I think the things we care about are very, very much aligned. We may approach them differently or have different solutions, ways to resolve the things, but I think at the heart, we all care about much of the same things. Circle of concern are the things we care about, but over which we have little or no control. The economy, political events, other people's actions. And what Covey says is focusing on the things that are in the circle of concern can lead us to feelings of powerlessness and frustration. Any of you feel a little powerless at times lately or frustrated? Yes? Oh, yeah. Yeah. It doesn't mean we stop caring about these things. And it doesn't mean that we stop doing what we can do about these things. But we realize that we alone are not in control of them. In the circle of influence, however, these are the things that we care about and we can do an awful lot about to heal or correct. Things like our own behavior, our own attitudes, our own choices, our own relationships. Metaphysics, unity, lives very much in that circle of influence, very much in that circle where it says, let us do what we can do from the inside out. And as we grow, as we become stronger, as we become more healed, as we become more whole, as we rise in consciousness, we will make better choices. We will find our voice. We will be instruments of peace. We will help others to find a way. But it starts from where? In here. It starts from in here. A fourth idea is embracing challenges as opportunities for growth and spiritual development. That helps us to be more resilient. That helps us to have the bounce back ability that I think is really important when we're facing tough stuff personally or when we're facing it collectively. To embrace our challenges as opportunities for growth and spiritual development. It's just choosing to look at it differently. The song Jimmer sang earlier, I choose love, about what are you choosing to see? I think it's really about what are you choosing to focus on. I do think we need to see full spectrum. I do not think we put our heads in the sand and we ignore. We need to see full spectrum. But it's then, what do we focus on? Because what we focus on determines the direction we go. What we focus on determines where we're going to put our energy and our resources. I've used this example so many times, but it's a very simple, clear one. When I used to teach little kids how to skate, we'd say, you do not look at the ice unless you want to fall down. What you focus on is going to be where you go. You don't look just straight ahead, because eventually you're going to come to the end of the rink and you're going to hit that rail and it's going to win. You focus on where you want to go. Do you need, when you're skating, to know where the ice is? Yeah, that's helpful. Do you need to know where the end of the arena is? Yes, you'd better know. But that's not what you focus on. When we say choose love, we're saying focus on that. Don't ignore the fact that there is hatred in the world. Don't ignore the fact that there are horrible things that people are still capable of doing to each other. Don't ignore that. But don't let that be your focal point. Focus on what you want to see come rise up. Focus on the world that you want to live in. And when we do, that causes us to embrace the tough times, the challenges differently. When Jesus said, turn the other cheek, he gave a powerful teaching. And it was not a teaching of lay down and let him walk all over you. He gave a teaching, a mystical teaching of perspective. Because when we turn the other cheek, we see something different. Do it right now. Turn the other cheek. You see something different, right? When he said, if somebody strikes you on one cheek, turn the other cheek, he really wasn't meaning just let yourself be a punching bag. If you think he meant that, then you have a pretty small, stupid Jesus. I guess I shouldn't wear jeans anymore. He was a teacher. He was a teacher of consciousness, and so turn the other cheek is look differently. Have a different viewing point. A viewing point is different than a viewpoint. We dig in when we have a viewpoint, right? Or at least we tend to. Like a viewpoint is, this is my viewpoint. This is how I see it. A viewing point is a little more open and flexible. A viewing point is, well, let me try to see it differently. I may still come back and prefer my viewpoint, but there's emotional and spiritual maturity when we can recognize the difference between my viewpoint and a viewing point. So embrace challenges as opportunities for growth and spiritual development. A reframe that we often talk about in Unity is, this has not happened to me, it has happened for me. This has not happened to me, this has happened for me. We say it's happened for me to grow me. Even if the reframe is not provable, even if this reframe is not provable, even if it's wrong, you're in a much stronger position to reclaim your power and unleash your inner strength with it than without it. Going back to, this has not happened to me, it has happened for me. Even if that is hard to believe, even if it seems like it is wrong, you will still be more empowered if you hold that thought. You'll be more encouraged and stronger to try to deal with it than if you believe the opposite. Does that make sense? Okay. And then the very last idea I want to share with you, mindful of my time here, is releasing what doesn't serve you anymore. Remember I said a moment ago, I couldn't remember who to credit it to, but the idea that so much of life is a process of unlearning, shedding things that aren't true, that somewhere, somehow along the way we picked up, whether it's myths about ourselves or myths about how life works. Life is not a zero-sum game. And it will make a lot of positive changes as a human species when we can get past that or drop that lie, that belief that life is a zero-sum game. But releasing what no longer serves you. That can be toxic beliefs. That can, sometimes it's relationships that are toxic, that are really pulling you down, that are not helping you to be who you are about. Sometimes it's about doing that deep forgiveness work. When Jesus was asked about forgiveness, how much do I have to forgive? The answer he gave was 70 times 7. And he didn't mean 490 times. He meant you do it until it's complete. Doesn't mean you condone wrongs, and it does mean sometimes justice has to be meted out, but it's the motivation behind it. It's when we forgive, we are releasing ourselves hostage to the past. I was reminded as I was going back over my notes yesterday of a story I had read years ago about Clara Barton. That she was being interviewed, and there was someone in her life that had done her a serious personal and professional wrong. And this person who was questioning her or interviewing her brought that situation back to Clara Barton's mind. And the person said to her, how do you feel about that? That was a horrible thing that was done. And Clara Barton's response was, no, I don't remember that. I distinctly remember forgetting it. Isn't that no, I distinctly remember forgetting it. Some of us are too good at keeping score. I distinctly remember forgetting that. So maybe there's something that you would benefit from distinctly remembering to forget. And with that, I will say thank you. Namaste.